everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Oracle Talks. What the Harrow is happening? I had a little bit too much fun with the title, but hopefully we have just as much fun today with the episode itself. This is our first go around, so please be prepared for maximum chaos, as is our brand. when you stick Jess and I together, it gets a little bit chaotic, but in a good way. So, but try to keep us on track as much as possible. And so for this first roundabout, we're going to start off. We do have segments. Oh, look at us being so organized. Segments to our new talk show. Our first segment is called News Wrap Up. So in this segment, since this is the first time you're here, welcome. Mwah. Thank you for being here. We will talk about a couple of news things in the space, what we think about it, how it's going to affect or can be used for publishers, because that's where our understanding of things come from, is we're publishers. So that's where we're going to be coming from. And also, we just really love all the cool shit that comes out of our communities, and want to have a chance to talk about that and maybe like some of the fun things that come up from that. So that is this section. Jess is fully ready for the first one. Because we are talking about the planar character options for the Cypher system, by Monty Cook Games that just came out. Yeah, I think someone has the book on there over there.
Yeah, it's magnificent. I love it.
And we were talking a little bit about some of the new player options, and I'm just ready to live my best cube life. Uh, and just getting to all kinds of shenanigans. Now, is it just like a Jello cube, or is it like an ooze cube? Like, can I change like shapes, or am I just stuck as this very geometric cubey?
You are a geometric mineral cube. We
Ah,
were from a plane where everything is basically boiled, all living things are boiled down to just their base shapes. So like birds are like two like little squares together flying through the air, and like a squirrel is like a circle. Like everything is super base. And so you can play as this charming little fella right here, and just have like amazing adventures as a rock cube who can hold weapons. So that's one of the many cool extraplanar species that you can beat in the book. Um, Honestly, I love that they went like, because there's pretty not common, but like universally playable things like a lava elf or something.
mm-hmm.
Everybody wants to play a hot fire elf, so that's not that big of a stretch. But getting into like the weirder stuff, like the cube guy, and like some of the other things they have in there is very very cool. So I like that they really went extra planar. Like when you're digging through the book and you're reading through the
Yeah.
different foci and stuff, it very much feels extra planar, which I like.
Well, I mean, that's like the great thing, right? Like, it's supposed to be weird. It's not supposed to be everything else we've seen up to this
Yeah.
point, right? It's supposed to
Yes.
get a little strange with it, and I mean, it seems like the book does it extremely well. I'm loving the options that I'm seeing pop up, and I love everything that I'm hearing about it uh, pop up. So, I mean, I think we'll have some good, maybe, possibly community led like shorts in it. Maybe some community led actual plays in it, because it's just weird enough to be entertaining. I mean, I look forward to that. I don't want to say we in the royal sense. I speak for
Only
both
talk in the
of
roll.
us. Only I speak for both of us, Jess. No. Yeah, I mean, I look forward to see how people use it, because, I mean, they're nothing but good can come with adding weird options.
Oh yeah. I'm a sucker for player options anyway. It's from my forever player roots. So whenever I can design new player options or just look at what other people are doing with new character options, I really, really like it. And so this book was right up my alley. A lot of it, not a lot of it, parts of it are taken from the actual Path of the Plane Breaker campaign setting adventure. But most of it is just brand new stuff that you can use either a la carte in your own games or that you can like use specifically in those Plane Breaker games. So it's very, very cool. I'm pretty sure they have a 5e companion for it. Like, yeah, they do actually, because I ordered the Cypher version instead of the 5e version. So, if you're still playing 5e or you want to try both different options out in both systems, then they have that available too.
Awesome. And just rolling right along into weird but fantastic things in our community, uh, we come to the Mystery Flush Pit National Park RPG for the
Yes.
Cyber System and 5e. Uh, it technically it's still running crowdfunding wise when this episode drops because it runs till June 6th. And if I keep to my own schedule, this will come out June 5th. So
I,
yeah, it is. Oh, I can't say any words for another 10 minutes, but it is really, really weird.
it is bonkers, and I love it. It's another thing that I think one of the things that you'll hear if you kind of are in the cypher community for a little bit, people love trying to like it. There's a lot of opportunity to get weird with stuff, and so something like Mystery Flush Pit, absolutely not 10 minutes in, so I can't use the F word.
Yeah, I was like,
Absolutely.
ha.
Um, yeah, and the team behind it is just magnificent. Ganza Gaming, but Christopher is the person who's working in the setting, converting everything, writing everything for Cypher System. And he's an amazing developer, great writer. He's worked on a lot of stuff in the Cypher
He did
community.
Esper Genesis, right?
Yeah, and yeah, so he's very, very, very strong talent. A lot of really cool stuff comes from him. And the actual project itself, the actual setting. I'm a terrible person because I cannot remember the name of the man who actually invented it, but it's been going on for like years. It's this like art project that's just been super, super cool.
Trevor Roberts.
Boom, there it is.
That's my
Yes.
job here is keep us in the facts.
Yes, but it's this really, really cool, like, kind of, if you're into things like that are like weird alternate reality versions of like little niche areas of Americana, like if you like Welcome to Night Vale, if you like things like that, you'd probably really dig Mystery Flesh Pit. It's, yeah, I definitely at least read the synopsis for it because if you remotely like some weird gaming, it's going to deliver it all to you.
Yeah, I mean that image that they're using on all the banners for like all the Kickstarters and stuff. I mean it's interesting. Yeah, real weird. But yeah, so from my understanding, it just a little brief blurby if the the name Mystery Flesh Pick National Park didn't get you. From my understanding, it is a weird world where there's living attractions, like an entire park of flesh. So you can hike, explore. There's evil corporations doing exploity things with the park because, of course, there is. Um, and there are like weird pop-up roadside attractions and just lots of things for you to try and figure out, piece together, and also just get really icky. Um, I mean, if the flesh pit didn't get you, that it was gonna be a little weird and possibly icky, then I don't know what will. I don't know what to tell you.
It's all the name. If that intrigues you and doesn't revolt you, then definitely check it out.
Yeah.
If you're like, oh, what is about this mystery flesh pit that I'm hearing so much about? If that even piques your interest, then definitely check it out because it does look like a very, very cool project. I personally backed it, so I cannot wait to see what comes out of it. But the team behind it's amazing, so I'm sure it's going to be great.
Okay, and last but not least, the last news thing that we're talking about today is the Devil's Dandy Dogs is off to the press, which came out as an announcement on the 26th. So for anyone who loves a lot of the games that you see come out from Monty Cook Games, which I mean, if you're here, I hope I hope you're there. But if you want to see some cool things, they're going to be at the UK Games Expo, showing off things including the Devil's Dandy Dogs. That's going to be like a tongue twister for me. I know it. And so it's a really cool like combination of games. Really great art. Like I'll probably add in and post some of the art that you can see for some of these cards. But they look amazing and it looks so fun. You collaborate together using these cards. It doesn't look like there's a whole lot of words, but you have like a tarot style deck to generate cool twists and turns with the game and with your story. Very rules light, narrative role playing game focused on mystery, magic, and the unforeseen. Like a pack of supernatural dogs, you know, like the name suggests. Um, so it will be really interesting. I really always love the concept of just like a deck of just illustrations or like a tarot style deck where that's what like the GM or the DM uses to like kind of drop things in because you still have to improv because it's not telling you what it is. Um, but it's like a little bit of like a directive improv, especially for the newer GMs who are like,
That's exactly the sound that I make when I have the DM, actually.
Our next segment is something that we just kind of wanted to do. I mean, we kind of end up doing it all the time, anyways, throughout everything that we do. But we wanted to take a moment to provide some community spotlights for some things that we thought were really cool and either really helpful to us as GMs or players or as publishers, or just were like really cool things that the community was doing that we wanted to make sure people kind of got an eyeball on. So the first thing is Cypher Unlimited. I mean, I feel like Jess was on something that was like Cypher Unlimited.
It was a while ago. No,
Yeah.
yes, I was absolutely. Yeah. During the Harrow campaign, they were kind enough to put me on their stream, and they do a lot of YouTube and interviews with creators in the Cypher community and outside of the Cypher community, just in general. They just did a big one with Kobold Press's person behind Tales from the Valiant. But the community overall, I mean, they have a Discord community that's incredibly welcoming to players, to creators, to it's where I got my toes wet when we transitioned from 5e into Cypher, and everybody there was just incredibly welcoming. Absolutely amazing community, and they have it mirrored on like Facebook and things. But if you can check them out on YouTube, you can kind of get the vibe of they're just super welcoming people and really, really, really funny. And their whole community just it shows from the top down how amazing this community is really reflective on the people that run it, and they do a great job. And they often have people from Monty Cook Games that will actually do their hosting of AMAs and things there because it is sort of like it is the biggest Cypher system community that's out there, and it is unofficial, but it is the one where it's where Monty Cook Games points people in their newsletters during their crowdfunding, everything. So I mean, they're all but official, and I think they're official to most people in the community as like the Cypher community to be in.
Yeah, and something that Jess and I use all the time because I love you, Monty Cook Games, but your CSRD is currently really hard to navigate. Is Old Gus's CSRD, which is this beautiful thing done by someone in the community to make it a lot easier to navigate and find things within the Cypher system reference document. Because otherwise it's just currently a Word doc that you download and have fun. Um, which I mean, I love being able to have it offline for like the times when I'm traveling or something to be able to look it up. But whew, boy, is that not easy to navigate.
No, it's not. And Old Gus is what they go by. And I met them originally on the Cypher community and encountered their CSRD. And it's gorgeous, and everything it's super easy to navigate, very intuitive, amazing for people that really don't have a lot of experience with Cypher. Because if you just crack open that massive rule book, it can be kind of intimidating. That gives a really visually appealing and easily navigable way to like learn basic rules. They even went and put in like their own little charts that kind of explain how things go. Like they've even enhanced the CSRD. And they also keep up with errata. Monty Cook Games has been very cool about doing fairly frequent updates of their CSRD because it is pretty new. And they have a lot of materials to add into that, and they have been doing that. And as they've been doing that, Old Gus has been right on top of things, making sure they're right there. So absolutely awesome resource. We linked it in the early access version of Harrow, just to give, people, if they wanted to add in some additional stuff from the SRD that wasn't in our book, they would have that there available for them. It'll probably be something that we reference for as long as it's around because it's just an absolute treasure.
Yeah, honestly, Old Gus has saved me because there's some late nights. I won't mention how late I stay up to design because I don't need to put myself on blast like that.
Someone does, damn it.
So when the normal document starts burning my eyeballs, I'll jump over to Old Gus because it's just a dream to navigate and end up finding things way quicker. And if you're wanting any of the links for any of our community spotlights or from the last segment with the news wrap up, they will all be down in the description below as long as future Kayla remembers to add it.
Yes.
So if it's not there, please let future Kayla know. Section that we are calling the Oracle Answers All, which will be our Q&A section that we'll have up. We'll be collecting questions from our Discord, our Patreons, the forum that you've seen us push on social media, which is also linked in the description below if you have a question for us. And just kind of gathering those all up, especially the ones that we see a lot of or that we think would be beneficial to just kind of like talk about out loud in a larger format, so because probably more than one person has that question, and we want to make sure that everything is clear. And since we're focusing today on Harrow with a little sneak peek announcement at the end for our new setting, but wrapping up our Harrow today, all of the questions today do have to do with Harrow. So our first one comes from our Discord. It says, it starts with a quote from the Harrow book, which says, you may even find your way off of the blighted plane should your luck play out and you so choose. And so then the question is, do people believe this is possible and desirable? Is this more of a pie in the sky sort of dream for most, or something achievable but difficult? Who and or what stands in the way of someone trying to leave?
That's a really great question. And it's one of those ones that sort of it's both of those things. It is a pie in the sky dream and also something that people don't really ever think about. For your average everyday person in Harrow, as a member of the Four Nations, you're kind of just going about your day to day. You're not looking to escape. They're really people focused on making the current world they have better. And that's what they've been doing for the last several hundred years. It's just recovering after the cataclysm and creating the best version of the world they can for themselves in the face of all these like crazy changes that the plane might throw at them. So for most people, escaping the plane is like a kind of like a fairy tale, or it's not something they even think about outside of hearing people talk about it every now and then, like as a fairy tale. That being said, there are people that, like, if you're a gatherer that's like out on the water sands and the shifting gyre opens up in in the sands, you might catch a glimpse of this like other world through this planar tear, and that might like spark you to be like, oh my gosh, there's other places out there that look entirely different to this and this. So that might, on an individual level, that might drive that person to be like, I want to leave this place. I want to see what else is out there. But it's super dangerous. There's no ways, like in a lot of fantasy settings and stuff, it's pretty easy to like plane jump around and do different things like that. There's no way to do that on Harrow. And even people who find themselves falling through these planar tears that might happen or stuff and landing on Harrow, they have a really hard time ever getting off again because there's not a lot of ways off the plane. There are a couple, without spoiling them, out in the Lucent wastes and stuff, where if someone was very, very bold and or very, very stupid and or very, very lucky, they might,
or a combination of three.
A combination, which, to be fair, most gaming groups are a potent combination of those characteristics, so they might actually get off the plane. So there are ways to utilize old Qatari technology to actually leave the plane. But for the most part, it's thought of as a pie in the sky dream. It's thought of something as, like finding Shangri-La or, anything like that. It's not seen as a real concrete thing that people either want to do or can do. And the people that do try to do it, which there have been, most of them are unsuccessful or die just because the ways that they see other planar activity are typically too dangerous for people to survive. And a lot of people don't brave the areas of the world where secretly there are these ways that you can navigate your way off the plane. So it's something that if a player characters really wanted to do and the GM wanted to allow them to, break free of the setting, they definitely could do it. The mechanisms are there, but for the most part, baked into the world itself, it's not something that people are really striving to do.
I also honestly think that the scholars, like from Isaiah, uh, are probably the ones that have thought about this the most because they're like the researchers and the like knowledge gatherers. So
And they
like
have all the secret volumes and things like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
so they have all of like the things that have come through the gaps, and they're like, "What's this weird book that I can't read?"
Yeah. Or like records of someone showing up, like who the people of Harrow thought, oh, this is just a weird, fucked up mutant, which is cool, live your life, but really they're like, no, I'm another person from another world entirely, and I don't belong here. And most people just think they're bonkers, but I see has got them in a little notebook somewhere,
Yeah.
that's probably from another place.
Probably not blighted. Question also comes from our Discord, which it starts with setting content question. Which nation would you say is better to their citizens, and which is the harshest?
See, that's amazing. Oh, so the four nations overall, everybody understands that living in Harrow, developing your society, these individual societies that they've developed, it's a team sport. You need each other to survive because they basically had to start rebuilding from nothing. So everybody is interconnected. There's still very much every society at a point where it's like leaving people behind doesn't make any sense to them because everybody is too valuable. What you can provide is too valuable, either in literal labor or knowledge or whatever you can do. Every hand helps. So no matter what, there's like a base level of how people typically treat their fellows in the world. From an outside perspective, each of the nations operates so differently that some people might look at like ICEA, for instance, which has all the academies, all the amenities, all these things that they have available widely for their people in their society, and might look at them and say, oh, they're the best to their people because they have all these things. But at the same time, they have all this bureaucracy and all this control and everything that they have safeguards that they believe are necessary and they've put into place that doesn't allow the same amount of freedom that you have in a few of the other nations. The same, the Lacane Armada, being a part of their society from the outside, might seem super fucking horrible because it's very warrior centric. They're out fighting the creatures. They're out living in the wilds of Harrow on their ships, and they're very rough people, but at the same time they have the same level of care for their own people that other people do. So they treat their people just as well, and they have more freedom than someone in Nicaea has, but they have less amenities and have to face more hardships. um, the mound is chock full of freedom, and people are everywhere. But at the same time, in the mound, it might be easy for people to kind of fall through the cracks more than in other nations because there's such a condensed amount of people in this one area. And the mound, of course, provides like just like other nations, like a level of like universal food and things like that that people have access to, so that you don't have to necessarily worry about going hungry. But it also has areas where people do fall through the cracks that the other nations don't have, just because there aren't those blind spots to the people in control of things. Karabundi, oh gosh, it's really hard to say anything bad about Karabundi. Actually, they're just like a big, massive hippie commune. So I guess from the outside, they might appear to treat their people the best because literally everybody's an equal. All positions are cycled around. So whoever is the governor now, a year from now, it will be another elder that's the governor, or whoever's doing this will be, everything cycles. So it's much more fair. People have a fair amount of freedom. People share the work more equally there. And there's a lot of space. So I guess from the outside, Karabundi might be the one that people will look at immediately and go, oh, those guys are the best to their people.
See, that's interesting because when I read the Karabundi, my first thought I was like, oh yeah, everyone's gonna think this is great, but this gives me big potential culty vibes.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing. They all have those little. It's the same thing. When I was talking about this to someone else on the server, and they said that like ICEA has a lot of remnants of like the Kataria left behind, and can possibly fall into the same kind of pitfalls, which is true. Like they're kind of skating that line of being like, what good things can we take from this dynasty that controlled us, but really had a lot of order and a lot of a lot of good they did. But how can we do the good without all the horrible stuff?
Third question, also from our Discord. Which I mean, if you haven't joined yet, what are you doing? You should go join the Discord. Um, we're there all the time.
We are way
Um,
more than we should.
shh. So the next question is: as hard as life on Harrow can be, it seems like the nations are at a point beyond the basics. How much of a normal person could an inhabitant of this world be? Is everyone forced to be somewhat hardy and ready for things to go wrong?
So people are forced to be mentally resilient, I would say. That's probably the big thing. It's like you kind of I mean, they've lived. They live. The current people haven't, but the people as a whole have lived through an apocalypse. So and now they're on the other side of an apocalypse, and the plane still throws crazy things at them sporadically. And so they have to stay very mentally resilient. But you can still be a very normal person in heart, like you were just saying. The PCs are going to take on the part of gatherers most likely because those are the people that, for some reason, have something that drives them out onto the water sands and out into the wastes and wilds of Harrow. Whether that be because you work for a nation-sponsored crew and you're helping gather important material, or because you've started your own independent scrap house, you want to get out there and get your own power and glory and whatever it is that you're looking for personally. You're a different kind of beast than your average everyday person in the Mound or Icea or Lacane or Carabundy. I mean, someone has to be there to make sure that the society is running, and that's most of the people. So, you can be just a baker in the Mound. Your entire life could be, I got up every day and I baked, and then I died, and then that was it. That was the end of the story. So there's definitely a possibility to be, yeah, exactly. He made pretty good bread. It was mediocre bread, actually. He died a mediocre baker, and that's okay because there's a lot of them out there. But yeah, so you can be a completely normal person in the society if you want to be. I think what sets the people of the plane apart from your average fantasy setting, which honestly, I mean, if you think about how many fucking apocalypses Forgotten Realms has been. I mean, but anyway, your average person is just very mentally resilient and kind of prepared. It's like even if the worst happens tomorrow, we still have to get up the day after and continue marching forward. So it's a question of just like a mental resilience more than it is like you have to be a different breed of person.
Last question. How large is Harrow and how much of it is actually known by the four nations?
Let's see that. Yeah, you notice on the maps that we've provided with images, it said the known world of Harrow, and that's because that's the area of the world that everybody knows about. But so there's the four nations, and I guess I should talk to some of you as though you don't know everything about Harrow like I do, which is, hopefully you'll know everything about it soon. But so Harrow is a world that shifts and changes a lot, but there are a few static elements in Harrow. The water sands will always be there, and as far as people are concerned, is endless. There are each of the four nations, which act as their own sort of like islands in the water sands. And then there's the Great Oasis, and there's the Lucent Wastes. These are both incredibly large, stretching areas of either, in the case of the Great Oasis, this like teeming fungal jungle that is just full of all sorts of different, biodiversity, plant life, animal life, everything. It's bonkers, and no one's ever seen the edges of it by traveling through it. Either they've gone in super deep and never returned, or they've gone in as far as they could, returned and was like, I didn't see the fucking end of it, so I don't know how long it goes on. Nobody has sailed around the Great Oasis all the way. And the same kind of goes for Lucent Waste. The Lucent Waste is a much more dangerous area, so people haven't spent as much time there, just because environmentally it's not as easy for a normal person to be able to go there and survive. But it's another great stretching landmass. So there's definitely, I'm not going to say that there definitely is, but there definitely is a possibility of there being a whole other nation out there, or like another massive landmass that they just don't know about that is, waiting on the horizon. Yeah.
So that concludes our questions for Harrow for this episode. We do have, again, once we have announcements happening, we do have another set ready to go for our next one that is more focused on our new setting. So if you have any questions for the new setting, get those in. Um, we are almost to announcements, but before we get to the UO announcements, I'm going to make you endure one more segment. So we are going to be stretching our little designer muscles a little bit each of these episodes. We are going to have something that we're going to try. Jess and I are both going to try and design for in a limited amount of time. I'm going to say 10 minutes because it's an NPC. So you know. And we are actually sponsored for the next couple of design challenges. If you would like to sponsor and send us some cool things to inspire us, please do reach out to myself or Jess. But we are sponsored for this one by Many Worlds Tavern. And future Caleb will put up some cool image thingies here. They are amazing. They have some amazing art. They have game pads, they have stickers, they have teas, they have coffees, they have an amazing amount of stuff. It's all gorgeous art. I would pick up the thing that's to my right and show you, but that's for the next design challenge. So instead, what I'll show you is the one that we're going to use for inspiration, because for today's design challenge, we're doing NPCs. We're doing fantasy for our genre. I will roll on this magic spinny chart thing here in a second what our randomized flavoring is, where I have the spinny wheel. So I can spin the spinny wheel and we can see what we'll get. Mystery. So the flavoring is mysterious, because it is an NPC. So something with that flavoring is what we're going for. Alright. I mean, we still have 9 minutes, but I'm just going to stop that now. And turn off the music. Let's just go over the NPCs that we designed. Jess, I'll let you go first. Tell us who our new little NPC baby is.
Kieran Fontaine. Here's their little flavor, because I gotta put flavor text on things. What do I know? I'm just a simple pots and pans merchant child. Appearance, androgynous, catfolk of unknown age, wears simple linen clothing and pushes a small vendor cart. Mannerisms, smiles often while talking, but it never seems to reach their eyes, which widen slightly with those surprised when listening to people talk about things that they feel they should feign interest in. Modifications, local lore, stealth, and speed tasks at +2 level. And the special little nugget that you can get from a Kieran is they have connections to an elite assassins guild.
Ooh.
Yes.
In true Kayla fashion, I gave myself a really hard name. I don't know if any of you have ever played with me or read some of the things I've written, but I give great names, but they're not always easy to say out loud. So I made Giraldi Horatio Herete the Third.
Ooh, the third.
The
Two other
third.
people carried that name.
And I gave them 2 quotes because I couldn't decide which one would be better. I apologize for the puns in these quotes. That tome would be perfect for my research. I'll trade you this artifact for it. And
Nice.
I would hiss at that price if it wouldn't be so rude. Now let's talk hard tech. So I actually used the wizard kitty looking guy from our little inspiration thingy. little
Mm.
with the little orbs. Um, and so I will probably end up making him more just general fantasy. But since we're in the Harrow vibes, I was like, this little kitty got yeeted through a rift.
Awesome.
I was like, well, kitty isn't through the rift now. He's stuck here. And so he has been spending the last decade living in Isaiah in the halls of knowledge, searching for a way back. He provides counsel to those in power on things that are on the other side of the rift for research. And he's very conniving and trying to like get enough power or enough influence to fully fund his own research so he can get back home. And he's standoffish and aloof and stares through people like cats do. Uh, I say surrounded by my cats. Um, his modifications, he has knowledge of the blight and research at +1, and other planes +3 because he's not from here. Um, and connections, I gave him a little risque connections. Uh, he has linked himself to several high-ranking SAM members both academically and romantically.
Love that.
And he secretly passes along information to the Lacane captain that saved him in exchange for any rift finds.
Ooh,
So maybe passing along some info he shouldn't from the people he's involved with in the council.
I love this little man.
Little sneaky cat man.
I love it.
But yeah, I gave him a hard name to say, so
Sue. What are you, a sewer? You gonna
yeah,
sewer?
we could do.
Sewer. Please don't sue.
Yeah, please don't.
We
Um,
can't handle litigation right now.
so that is our first successful design challenge. Um,
Riveting.
and our final segment, which I'm sure everyone is just foaming out the mouth for, is our Underground Oracle announcements. Because, I mean, this is nothing if not a Underground Oracle talk show where we do a lot of things, but we also talk about the Underground Oracle things. So we do have a number of announcements to get through. First, we're just going to give you an update on where we are on finishing up the production of Harrow because we did close the Kickstarter. And we are in that, so I'm going to toss that over to Jess.
Boom. We are cooking with gas. Most of the actual writing is absolutely complete. We're finishing up cool stretch goals that were opened up, like sandship customizations. We're adding in the additional ciphers, polishing up some stuff on the just fleshing things out. But that's well underway. We're really close to getting the editing and layout going. We have more art pouring in every day, so it's looking more and more beautiful. So definitely on track to get that thing kicked out.
Awesome. Our next announcement is just a little fun thing. We've mentioned it a few times. We are working on possibly a random character and or NPC creator for Harrow to make things easier for you. Why? Because I got distracted and I was like, I wonder if, and then I did the thing.
Haley gets distracted and does the thing a lot, and it's great.
Yeah. And then I come to Jess and I'm like, look, I know I said, like, what if we did the thing? I did the thing.
I did the thing. That was awesome.
So we just have to, I think I just used, like, a really weird background, so we actually have to make it look like Harrow.
Look horrifying.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And beef up some of the library for the random generalization, and then there you go. If you want to just like make random characters and hop in without any get-go, or you need help coming up with some NPCs, keep an eye out for that. The easiest way to keep an eye out for that is either follow Underground Oracle Publishing on any of our social medias, which, if I'm smart, future Kayla will link those down in the description, or join our Discord because we'll post it there too. And I'll probably laugh at the crazy things that we get when we randomly generate from the thing. As a reminder, at this point, our Cypher Shorts Fantasy Shorts Volume 3 is live. This will be our last one in the fantasy area for a little bit as we transition into sci-fi shorts with the new setting. Also, I mean, we mentioned, Jess being in things. Keep an eye out, June 9th at 8 p.m. EST. Jess will be playing in Lonely Gray, hosted by I apologize, Kid Hup, on their channel. I apologize if I got that wrong. I'm sorry, I'm not Canadian.
I'm sorry you're not Canadian too, Kayla.
Me too. The healthcare would be so much better. And
It's gonna be a rad stream. So there's a bunch of people who are way more popular than yours truly that's gonna be on that stream. So it's gonna be a good time. Some cool cyberpunk fun. So
I mean, I wouldn't say way more popular, Jess. You're pretty dang popular. I don't know if you saw all of the things Jess was in when we were doing our Kickstarter.
if you haven't gotten tired, I was like, you know what? People need to see me on a weekly basis now.
Yeah, and now we're here, so deal with it.
Exactly.
And our last announcement for this episode, which I mean, I'm sure everyone came here for, and we've just kept you here for as long as possible before we did it. Yeah. Our new setting is going to be a sci-fi setting, as we kind of hinted at. It's called Wild Space. Episode 2 will be all about wild space theming and the questions and all of that, so we'll go into it way more. If future Kayla is nice, I'll show a little sneak preview image. What? Right there. Oh, that's gone. So quick. Otherwise, we'll be going over a lot more in depth of it, and we do have some cool art for the base races already that we'll show off. Jess, is there anything that you want to tell them a little bit about Wild Space? Just a little like sneaky peek for episode 2.
It's high adventure fantasy, or not high adventure fantasy, high adventure sci-fi. That is you're playing wilds, which are anthropomorphic animal people. So you'll be living out your furry dreams in space, and it will be a boatload of fun.
Yes, so good. And we have so many things already planned for it. As always, we'll be doing our Kickstarter once we get done with the Quick Starter, which will have just so much stuff in it. If you want to check out the Quick Starter like we did with the Harrow, join our Patreon at the appropriate tier. Insert tier title here, Kayla of the future. And you'll have access to the Quick Start with the new setting. Our community helps us kind of like figure out the directions we want to more focus on it, and gives them a little sneak peek of it before we do get to that launch of the Kickstarter for the fuller setting book itself. Whew, that was a mouthful. But with that, we have successfully completed all of our segments for our first ever episode of Oracle Talks. I had a great time just yippee yapping at you a bunch. I'm sure Jess did.
I'm so jealous. It's ridiculous, actually.
We will see you in episode 2 to talk more about the new setting. As always, let us know if you have any questions using the form down below or by posting in our Discord. Follow us on all of our social media and subscribe to this channel if you want to know when the next episode pops up. Thank you so much for joining us, and see you next time.